Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 3784. Today's date is December 27, 2025. It's been almost like night at exactly 10:09 p.m. Okay, today I haven't really recorded Artifact this morning. And the reason was that I was at the hospital. Actually, my sister had a pneumonia. Like, pneumonia is a disease, by the way. Okay, yeah. And we like, she was actually coughing a lot from last couple of days. Today we went to the hospital. Like, basically before we also went to the hospital too. Okay, yeah. But they are not kind of like getting little bit anything at all. So today we went to the bigger hospital. Okay, yeah. And they kind of like tell us that she has a pneumonia. So no, she's good. It's not really that bad. Okay, yeah. So that's why I just kind of like simply stay at the hospital. Okay, yeah. Like, I went to the hospital at morning at almost like 9 a.m. Now she's admitted. Now she's good. It's not really that bad. She's good. Okay, yeah. I came from 2 p.m. I came 2 p.m. and then I kind of like simply ate my lunch, shower and things like that, doing my work. But then after that, like, basically it's this, and I have a lot of stuff that back and forth going on and stuff like going to the hospital and kind of like take the tiffin and things and that. Relatives, a lot of them. Okay, yeah. So basically because of this thing, I cannot kind of like simply take time for myself as well as, yeah. So that's why I haven't really recorded Artifact. By the way, I did my design. Okay, it's not really that I haven't really done. I did my design. Haven't really uploaded. After this Artifact, I will gonna upload. But a couple of days might be a kind of like a little bit something busy because I have to go hospital back and forth. All right. Okay, so should we jump to the question? Right, let's go. Okay, the question is, what if parallel lives influence each other? Oh, that is a really good question. Okay, first of all, what exactly is this question? And why am I asking this question to myself? This is what if question. Why am I asking this question to myself? Like a what if question is always really interested way to give the answer. It kind of like force you to think about that reality. When I try to think about that reality, or when I try to create that reality, I'm kind of like utilizing my knowledge and information and experience that I've been through. And it kind of like somehow it felt good. The information disclaimer, the information that I'm trying to tell you is not exactly right or is not exactly wrong either. It's a raw, it's unfiltered, it's just my opinion. So do not believe in any kind of like information that I am saying, or do not seek for any kind of like information that I am saying. It's just my opinion, and opinion are subjective. Alright, yeah. Now regarding about the question says that what if parallel lives are influenced to each other? Now, what is actually parallel lives? I don't know. Like parallel lives means like that. Na, it's a kind of like only multiverse kind of like a concept probably. Okay, yeah. It's a kind of like a things that na ki some scientists actually believe that ki we are living in the universe, but there are different universe too. Okay, yeah. And each universe is kind of like an exact copy of our universe, but little bit different. Okay, yeah. And we have kind of like a million trillions of universe. Okay, yeah. And those universe are not a kind of like a kind of like assembly plate which kind of like a kind of like assembly stuff at like a basically it's not kind of like assembly that one plate above one plate above one plate, or like one universe above one universe. No, it's not. It's a kind of like assembly multiple branches. Okay, yeah. Imagine a kind of like assembly a one single universe which has a kind of like a multiples of branches, and those multiples of branches creates a kind of like a multi-universe and things like that. Probably. Okay, yeah. Like I don't think that it's a kind of like some very frictionalized version. Okay, yeah. Like scientifically, it's not actually proven that somehow this kind of like exists or not. But yeah, it's a kind of like a something fun to say and kind of like a stuff that. But regarding about this question, na, okay, yeah. Like let me tell you what exactly parallel means. What? Yeah. So parallel means what? Ki kind of like a something. Uh, my different version. Like basically is this thing that ki okay, if you don't really understand, now I'm trying to simplify as simple as it can. Okay, so there are so many things are actually happening in my life. Okay, yeah. Like basically is this thing in today in this universe, in this timeline, I am kind of like actually struggling to be a kind of like a filmmaker or be a kind of like a somebody person that wanted to be a creative things and something like that. Okay, yeah. The another version of me are kind of like actually doing a job. The another version of me is kind of like actually became a filmmaker. The another version of me is a kind of like a became something else. What I'm trying to tell you is this thing na ki when we do kind of like a some decision, those decisions are kind of like open something new path. Now, and when we do not take that decision, we kind of like went to another path. It's a very hard to describe. Example, let's just say that ki I I kind of like somebody I got in 12th exam I got kind of like a 94 marks. Okay, yeah. Now I wanted to go to the medical, but my father and my parents are actually insist me to go to the engineering college. Okay, yeah. So I choose engineering college. So in this particular point of perspective, your entire life is actually shifted. Like what if you kind of like took the medical, then you became a doctor. But on this point, you didn't really took the medical, you kind of like took the engineering, so you became the engineer. So basically, this point of perspective kind of like created two branches. Okay, yeah. One person became an engineer, another person became a medical person or doctor or things like that. Okay, yeah. And both person have a kind of like a different timeline with a different thought process, a different kind of like a the surrounding. So many things actually happened. Okay, from this one decision. That is called kind of like a parallel lives. Okay, yeah. Like in the one timeline, you are kind of like engineer. In another timeline, you are kind of like a doctor. Okay, yeah. Now this is kind of like a very simplified version that I'm trying to tell you. In when we are kind of like a living the life, we are kind of like a doing a lot of decision regarding about so many things, so many stuff. And yes, from each decision, it creates kind of like a multiple branches. I'm not really sure, but a kind of like a frictionalized version, they kind of like tell us that way. Okay, whatever. So this is kind of like a somebody, we call them as a doppelganger. Like basically, is this thing that na ki in this timeline, I am a kind of like a somebody YouTuber trying to achieve my goals and things like that. In another timeline, I became a kind of like a somebody office employee, kind of like a doing my work and stuff like that. So that particular person which actually exists in another universe is my doppelganger. Okay, yeah. He's exactly my thought process. He has exactly my thought process, but his surrounding is kind of like a bit more different. Okay, yeah. So he's my doppelganger. As well as for him, I am became a doppelganger for him. So basically is this thing, the person who actually kind of like is an exact copy of you, that is called kind of like called as a doppelganger. Alright. Doppelganger or doppelganger, it's very hard to explain the pronouns. Okay, by the way, these are fictionalized version. Reality, it doesn't kind of like associate anything at all, nothing. Okay, yeah. Now regarding about the kind of like a something, the question, what if the parallel life are kind of like a somebody try to influence each other. Now what exactly is this thing? Influence means what? Influence means what? Influence means like that ki like a kind of like I don't know, like basically this question kind of like tell us that ki in this with the doppelganger, with this parallel life, we are kind of like exchanging some sort of memories or things or that and that. That is called kind of like simply influence. Okay, like we are actually kind of like influenced by kind of like exact copy version of ourselves. There is a one moment or one scenario that I wanted to explain, which is somewhat something associated with this particular example. I like there are a couple of kind of like some cartoon series I like. One of my most favorite cartoon series is Avatar: The Last Airbender. Okay, yeah, and the artifact name is actually came from the Avatar: Last Airbender. Okay, my artifact. This artifact name is actually came from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Whatever. So this is a kind of like a some cartoon web series. Okay, yeah. Avatar: The Last Airbender. Now, let me tell you one thing regarding about this cartoon web series. Okay, this cartoon, this Avatar, like a Avatar, it's a kind of like a frictionalized world where kind of like assembly four fraction of people are actually exist. Those four fraction of people are kind of like controlling different materials. Like one people are actually controlling Earth. They called Earthbender. They legitly move like rocks and things like that. They cannot move bigger rocks. They have to do a lot of practice to move bigger rocks. But the people who kind of like move rocks and things like that, or Earth, not kind of like I'm not talking about the planet. I'm talking about kind of like only just little bit rocks and things like that. Those people called as a earthbender. Okay, yeah. The people who control the water, those called waterbender. Like controlling water, like basically creating shapes and things or lifting the water in midair, things like that. Waterbender. Okay, yeah. People who control the fire called firebender. Like basically kind of like somebody controlling the fire or things or that, do a lot of kind of like a firing stuff. That is called kind of like a firebender. The people who control the air called airbender. They kind of like a do little bit of magics and things like that. So those are four fraction of the people who are kind of like a have different power regarding about those material. Okay, yeah. Now Avatar is a kind of like a combination of all those fraction people. Like a Avatar is also became a kind of like a firebender, earthbender, waterbender, and airbender at the same time. Okay, yeah. And he is very powerful. So that's why called as a Avatar. Now the problem is that ki Avatar, no, it's not a problem by the way. The Avatar is kind of like a somebody live through eternity. It means like that eternity means what? Like basically is this thing when the Avatar dies, it kind of like a born with another life. Okay, with another life. So basically is this thing, if I am the Avatar, I die, then my soul, like Avatar soul, kind of like a transfer to the another body, and that body became kind of like a Avatar. Okay, yeah. Now this is kind of like a something called as a kind of like a something um, um kind of like a something afterlife or things like that. Okay, yeah. Because in this particular when the soul is actually transferred from one body to another body, which also kind of like a connect with the previous version of their life. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing, if I am the Avatar Korra, which is kind of like a present at the moment, so the past version of Avatar Korra is Avatar Aang, and the past version of Avatar Aang is Avatar Roku. The past version of Avatar Roku is Avatar Avatar um, I don't know. There are so many avatars. So there are kind of like a multiple variation, multiple kind of like a life or afterlife. Okay, yeah. So what are those do's? Like those are kind of like a simply afterlife people, like afterlife, like the previous life. They are kind of like a helpers to any kind of like a problem that they solve. Like basically, if I am Avatar Korra, and if I am kind of like a facing that one particular person who is kind of like a doing the blood bending. Okay, yeah. Now blood bending is also kind of like associated with the water bending, but very like a brutal. Okay, yeah. Like basically that water bender are actually controlling the water inside the blood, and that means that particular person is actually controlling the people, because people are actually made by the completely blood which is made up by water and things like that. So that is called blood bender. Now if I am Avatar Korra, and this is the kind of like somebody the problem that I'm facing first time, I don't know how do I supposed to tackle this thing. Okay, yeah. So if I don't know how do I supposed to tackle this thing, I kind of like meditate myself and try to connect my past life and try to kind of like find the answer that like is anyone avatar who kind of like face this problem in their life, like the person who kind of like doing the blood bending and things and that, then avatar Korra will kind of like get the information from the past life that he avatar Roku kind of like a face once that particular person kind of like doing the blood bending, and avatar Roku kind of like simply give them direction that how do you supposed to stop that particular person. Okay, yeah, things and that and that. Then avatar Korra, that means me, I am kind of like simply train myself to kind of like a fight with that bloodbender, and then I kind of like a stop the this evil crisis and things like that. So this is what kind of like a influence means, probably a kind of like a past life, kind of like a giving them a kind of like a some particular instruction, or kind of like a particular kind of like a things that what should supposed to do and what should we not supposed to do and stuff like that. This is called kind of like assembly, kind of like a influence, probably. But whatever, I kind of like assembly just talk about this kind of like a multiverse stuff things so many times. These what if questions I talk so many times regarding about stuff and stuff. But it's somewhat something kind of like a look like that way. All right, I should supposed to end here. Okay, yeah, this is it, and thank you.